This LOS is describe collateralized debt obligations, including their cash flows and risks. Collateralized debt obligations. Collateralized debt obligation, CDO, is a generic term used to describe a security backed by a diversified pool of one or more debt obligations. 1. CDOs backed by corporate and emerging bond markets are collateralized bond obligations, CBOs. CDOs backed by leveraged bank loans are collateralized loan obligations, CLOs. CDOs backed by asset-backed securities, residential mortgage-backed securities, and commercial mortgage-backed securities, and other CDOs are structured finance CDOs. CDOs backed by a portfolio of credit default swaps for other structured securities are synthetic CDOs. CDO structure. A CDO involves the creation of a special purpose entity. The funds necessary to pay the bond classes come from a pool of loans that must be serviced. A CDO requires a collateral manager to buy and sell debt obligations for and from the CDO's portfolio of assets to generate sufficient cash flows to meet obligations of the CDO bondholders and to generate a fair return for the equity holders. The structure of a CDO includes senior, mezzanine, and subordinated equity bond classes. The ability of the CDO manager to make the interest payments and principal repayments depends on the performance of the collateral. The proceeds to meet the obligations to the CDO bond classes can come from one or more of the following sources: interest payments from collateral assets, maturing of collateral assets, and sale of collateral assets. So we'll just do one practice question to finish this learning outcome statement. An additional risk of an investment in an arbitrage collateralized debt obligation relative to an investment in an asset-backed security is A, the default risk on the collateral assets, B, the risk that the CDO manager fails to earn a return sufficient to pay off the investors in the senior and the mezzanine tranches, or C, the risk due to the mismatch between the collateral making fixed rate payments and the bond classes making floating rate payments. Okay, the correct answer on that one is B. An additional risk of an investment in an arbitrage collateralized debt obligation relative to an investment in an asset-backed security is the risk that the CDO manager fails to earn a return sufficient to pay off the investors in the senior and mezzanine tranches. In addition to the risks associated with investments in asset-backed securities, such as the default risk on the collateral assets and the risk due to the potential mismatch between the collateral making fixed rate payments and the bond classes making floating rate payments, investors in CDOs face the risk that the CDO manager fails to earn a return sufficient to pay off the investors in the senior and mezzanine tranches. With an ABS, the cash flows from the collateral are used to pay off the holders of the bond classes without the active management of the collateral. That is, without a manager altering the composition of the debt obligations in the pool that is backing the securitization. In contrast, in an arbitrage CDO, a CDO manager buys and sells debt obligations with the dual purpose of not only paying off the holders of the bond classes, but also generating an attractive competitive return for the equity tranche and for the manager. And that's the last slide for this LOS. Thank you.